Today I'm doing a little bit of a different episode than I've done in the past. I've recently had some stuff come up in my life that has shocked me and caused me to look back for my foundation and my center and come back to God. And it's been a blessing. You know, it's in these hard times that we realize what's important, and it's an opening that can bring us closer to God. And I remembered something that I was supposed to do a long time ago and I hadn't done, and that was to talk about a blessing that God gave me. And I never fulfilled my end of the commitment, which was to be a beacon for others who are going through the same thing. And what I'm talking about is Lyme disease. But this can be for anyone who's sick, who's suffering, who's going through a hard time. So I want to start off with just praying. Dear God, give me the strength, give me the courage, guide me, guide my words and my actions. May I convey what it is that I need to convey clearly and concisely, and may this message get out to those who need it at their time of need, so that they can hear it as well and be blessed by your grace and your presence and have hope in the dark time that they're going through. And even for those who are not in a dark time, may this be a reminder of possibilities and of your power and strength in our lives. Amen. So I want to start off by just talking about my encounter with Lyme and where it all begun. I was working up in DC in 2019 for an organization called Natural Leaders, working for a guy named Nick Grenier, an awesome organization, an awesome guy. And I loved the job, and I was teaching kids, homeschool kids, survival skills. And I was out in the woods a lot. And I had done it for one full season, and I was in the beginning of my next season. And very quickly into that season, I started to feel off, and I started to feel like I was sick. I felt like I had the flu for a little while, but then that kind of passed. But then I had splitting headaches whenever I would do any extraneous activity. Headaches would just come pounding, and they were so strong and so debilitating. I became super sensitive to light. I became depressed. I started to forget things, and I started to lose my way, and things looked foreign. It was like I was in a state of deja vu, and these things would come in bouts. This feeling of like derealization, depersonalization that was happening to me. And this went on for months, and it got worse. And then one day I noticed bullseye rash appearing right here, but it wasn't around a tick bite, it was a disseminated rash. So you're probably familiar where you have a tick bite, you know, if you see the tick embedded in you and you pull it out and you see a bullseye come from that, around where that tick bit you, you know that tick was likely infected with Lyme, and you should go on antibiotics right away. But if you miss that initial bite and you don't see where that happened, and you don't see that initial bullseye, and you go untreated, after a while, as the Lyme disseminates through its body, you'll start having random rashes appear on your body. And that's what was happening for me. I was having these disseminated bullseye rashes starting to appear on my body. And I was familiar with Lyme disease. I had heard about it, but I was young and I thought I was indestructible, and I thought that's something that happens to other people. And even though I was feeling sick, I kept contributing it to other things. Like I just worked out too hard in the gym, and now my neck's sore, and so now neck stiffness is causing these headaches, and that's leading to me feeling off, and I just kept pushing it off and justifying it. But when I saw those rashes appearing on my body, then I knew it was Lyme, and I went to the doctor and I got on antibiotics. But like so many, I initially felt a little bit better, but then all my symptoms just persisted. and came back. And I did the full course of antibiotics and all of my symptoms were still there. And so then I got on another round of antibiotics, just thinking I hadn't done enough. And so I did another round of antibiotics, and the symptoms continued to get worse. And by the end of that round, I was having a lot of new symptoms even starting to appear. Mostly cognitive problems. Forgetting who people were, forgetting names of people. I would know I knew them, but I would lose their name. And people who've been lifelong friends of mine, I was losing their names and having a hard time finding that. I had twitching that started to occur all over my body, and it would take over my body, and my arm would twitch for days on end, continuously, and that twitch would move. It would be in my arm, and it would stay there for days, but then it would also be my thigh would twitch, and then my bicep would twitch, and then my face would twitch, and it was like boom, 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 and it just kept going all throughout my body, and it would take over certain areas more than other areas at different times. And it was like I had Parkinson's disease or something. My nervous system was going haywire. I couldn't remember anything. I felt drained. I felt fatigued. I felt depressed. I was having suicidal thoughts. And I just felt terrible. And so I had to quit my job and I had to go home. And when I was back at home, I got with a Lyme literate medical doctor, and I continued down that path, and I got on quadruple antibiotics, and then every few months they would switch up the antibiotics and put me on 4 other antibiotics, or switch out 1 or 2 of them and then keep the other ones going. I got more testing done, and it turned out I didn't just have Lyme disease, but I had Bartonella and Babesia, and so I had other tick-borne diseases that were complicating the situation, that are also very difficult to treat, particularly in conjunction with Lyme disease. And no matter how many antibiotics I took, it never fixed the problem, and I was just getting sicker. And I was destroying my gut in the process. I was destroying my whole microbiome. And I really was hitting rock bottom. And I was listening to a podcast one day, and some guy mentioned, by the name of Paul Stamets, that not many things are known to regenerate nerves. But he said that lion's mane mushroom is one thing that is shown, and also psilocybin or magic mushrooms have also been shown to stimulate nerve growth, particularly in small doses, like microdosing. And at this point, I had lost so much weight, probably close to 40-50 pounds. I was skin and bone. I was doing a strict ketogenic diet to just try to keep my cognitive powers still there, and it would help a little bit, but nothing was fixing the problem, and they were still there. It just made it a little bit more manageable, but I was losing weight with that diet, and I was still continuing to get sicker. And it was 9 months into the antibiotics at this point, and I knew at that point that they weren't going to fix me, and that at this point they were probably doing more harm than good. And I resigned myself at that point to living with this and being crippled, and my productive years being behind me at age 22 at the time. And I thought about taking my life. And honestly, the hard part was not doing it. I wanted with every part of my being to end the suffering, but knowing how much it would hurt my mom and those who love me is what prevented me from doing it. And I saw this podcast, and they mentioned these mushrooms, and I figured, I got nothing to lose. And so I got lion's mane, and then I figured out a way to get a hold of psilocybin mushrooms as time went on. And I was in a deep state of fasting at this point in time. I was doing a very strict ketogenic diet. 80% to 90% of my calories were coming from shots of olive oil and fish oil and coconut oil just to keep my brain somewhat functioning at a normal level. And I was so fasted and I was losing so much weight. And I got these mushrooms finally. And my intention was to microdose them for the nerve growth, because I was like, you know, I'm having nerve problems, my cognitive problems, my body's twitching all over constantly. My nerves are deteriorating. My myelin sheaths are being destroyed by this Lyme. And I need to fight that. And so I started taking the lion's mane, and I got a hold of the magic mushrooms. And I put them in my hand. And I just wanted to try them and see if they worked, just to see if they had some effect. Not trying to get high on them, not trying to have a deep experience or anything like that, just seeing if they worked. I was curious. But I went ahead and I put them in my hand, and I prayed, and I said, God, whatever needs to happen, let that happen. Whatever I need to go through, whatever pain I gotta go through in order to get my life back, I want that to happen. And I'm willing to take that on, whatever that is, in order to get my life back. And I will give myself over to you if you can give me that life back and help heal me from this disease. And ultimately, God, may your will be done. And I took the mushrooms. And, sorry, the camera timed out there for a second. But I took the mushrooms, and lo and behold, I did start to trip really hard, very fast. And I think it had to do with the fact that I wasn't eating food, and I had been in a very fasted state, and I had lost a lot of weight, and I was in a very receptive state. I was in a place where I had given up everything, and I was really helpless and had no hope, and was really at my rock bottom at this point when I ate these. And I think those things coming together caused even what was a very small amount of mushrooms, I don't know how much it was, but it couldn't have been more than a gram, to have a huge effect on me. And within 15-20 minutes, I started tripping really hard. I started seeing spirals and geometric patterns forming, and I had a lot of anxiety start coming up. And I thought, oh my God, what have I done? This was a terrible idea. I realized even more so the dire straits of my situation, and how pathetic of a position I was in, and how of a low place that I was at, and how much of my life was being held into balance at that time. And I started having panic attack after panic attack after panic attack, walking around back and forth. What have I done? What have I done? What's happening to me? What's happening to my life? How has it come to this point? And after panicking for a while, I sat down. I tried to focus on my breath, and I tried to focus on my breathing. And lo and behold, as always, that twitch was there, and it started coming back. And my legs started twitching, and my arms started twitching. It never went away. It was always there. But I was just noticing it because I had sat down again. And I thought to myself, you know, let me just try to do something about this twitch. Let me just try to focus on it and see if I can have some sort of an effect on this thing. And so I closed my eyes, and I don't remember what it was, but we'll say it was my thigh that was twitching at the time. And I focused in on my thigh while it was twitching. And I had a weird sensation occur where I felt like my mind was sinking into my thigh and was dropping into my thigh. And when I felt my mind kind of connect to that part of my body, and words don't do much to describe this, it's a sensation, it's a feeling thing, but this is the best I can. I felt my body sink into that thigh, and that twitch, and as soon as I felt it sink in and connect, that twitching stopped. And then it sprung up somewhere else in my body. Say my bicep. I can't remember the specifics. And my bicep started twitching. And then I started focusing in on my bicep. And again, I had that sensation of my mind connecting with that part of my body and sinking in. And as soon as I felt that mind-body connection and my mind sink into that part of my body, the twitching instantly stopped. And then it sprung up somewhere else. And so I continued to do this. And I continued to sink in and feel where it was happening and stopping it. And I was like chasing this thing throughout my body. It was very strange and very eye-opening, because nothing at this point had had any effect on this twitch. I mean, I had tried everything. I mean, I've been on huge doses of antibiotics. I had been taking massive doses of magnesium, whatever I could to try to calm my muscles and my nerves and whatever, and nothing had a single effect on this twitch. I mean, it was only getting worse as time went on. And all of a sudden, I was actually having an effect on it. My mind was having an effect on this twitch. But it was still there. I was just chasing it. And as I'm doing this, my eyes are closed. And I'm hallucinating. I'm seeing all kinds of stuff. I'm seeing patterns and stuff. And out of those patterns starts to form figures. And what forms out of it is an archetypal Christ-like figure. And an archetypal devil with the horns and the forked tail and everything. And they started to battle in my mind's eye as I was chasing this twitch through my body. And it was so bizarre because it was corresponding with my twitch, you know. So as I would be focusing in on a muscle that was twitching, as I started to feel my body sink into that muscle and start to connect with it, God would get the upper hand in the battle with this devil. And then, as soon as I would sink in, God would literally be at the point where he's about to kill the devil. And he would have like a pitchfork, I remember at one specific point, down on the devil's throat, and he was about to stab him. And then right as then, and the twitch stops, the devil gets away, last moment, and then the twitch springs up somewhere else in my body. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, and it just kept going. And so God would get an upper hand as I would sink into the next muscle. And then right before I would kill the demon, he would slip out and the twitching would start going off somewhere else in my body. And so I chased and the battles went on and they went on. And I was like, I cannot seemingly kill this thing. But if I could actually just hold him down and kill him, and God win, this twitch would be over. And I might actually start to heal from this Lyme disease. But I couldn't do it. He just kept getting away. And this went on for a while, and I got frustrated and I stood up. And I was like, I gotta take a break. I'd been sitting in silence this entire time. And I turned on some music. I played this song, To Build a Home, by the Cinematic Orchestra. And it's got like kind of a reflective beginning, and it builds its way up to like an epic crescendo. And so I laid there, and I just let go. And I was like, I don't know if I can win this battle. I don't know if I can kill this demon. I'm just letting go. And I just sunk into the most surrendered place I've ever been in my life. And as that song and the reflective stuff started to play, I started seeing all these flashes of all the worst moments of my Lyme disease. From the first symptoms appearing to me in the doctor's office. And it was me from outside of my body. I was looking back at myself, like seeing myself from the third person in all of these images, and I could feel what I was feeling in all of those times. And it was like a hurricane. It was flash, and then another flash of another particularly bad moment, and then another flash of a particularly bad night when I'm laying there curled up in my room in the corner, just cursing God And why did you do this to me? Why did you take my life away? And I could feel everything again, like I was reliving all of those horrible moments. And then the song started to build. And as soon as the song started to build, I got a flash that was different. And they were so fast, I can't describe them. I can't remember all of the images that I was seeing. But I just remembered there was a flash that I didn't recognize, and it felt different. And it was just for a brief moment when I was feeling all of those pains whirling back from all those horrible moments. There was a flash of an image, and that image, for that split second, was of liberation, of peace, of you're gonna be okay, it's over. You know, it was just a second. And then it went back to more of these horrible moments of my Lyme disease flashing before me. But the song continued to build. And as it continued to build, I kept getting more flashes of events I do not recognize. And I don't know if they're the future. I have no clue. They're too fast. Even if it was to happen, I wouldn't know if that was that moment or not. You know, all I know is these flashes had a different feeling, and it felt like it was me in the future. That's what it appeared like. And I knew in those flashes that I was better, you know, and I remember one in particular where I was out in the desert in Utah where I teach at a school called Boss. And I was out there, and I don't know if I was on a course or not, but I just remember the flash was just me saying to someone next to me, hey, yeah, I remember when I had Lyme. And then the next thing came. And that's what really clued me in that, like, these were future events, or at least appearing to be like that. And in these events, apparently I'm better, you know, and I could feel that I was better. Every time they would come through and I would have that quick flash, I knew I was better. I knew it was over. And as the song built more and more and more of the flashes were of events I did not recognize, and of this feeling of liberation, of it's okay, if I got you, you're gonna be fine. It's over. And eventually the song hit a peak. And when it hit that peak, my entire body uncontrollably seized, and I went into a tight ball. Every muscle contracted, and I was so tight in this ball, and then it just let go, and I let out a yell, an uncontrollable yell, and I fell back, and I was laying there, and I was like, what just happened to me? Like, I lost all control of my body, like something very strange is occurring. And I had done mushrooms before, and they had never been like this. This was a different experience altogether. There was something else there. And I started to feel a pressure in the base of my spine. And that pressure grew, and it grew. And I was like, what is going on in my spine? Like, I feel like my spine's going to explode. And eventually that pressure became so... Sorry, the camera keeps timing out. But I think where I was at was this pressure became so unbearable. And it grew so much in my spine. And right as I was like to the point where I was really going to freak out over what this was that was happening in my spine, I felt this energy rocket up my spinal column. And it felt like it was twisting its way up my spine. And it came all the way into my head, and all I saw was a bright white light. And I thought I was having a seizure. I thought I was stroking out. I thought I was having a major medical issue. But the white light subsided. And as soon as it subsided, the trip ended on a dime. I've never had this happen before. This was completely unique. And all I was left with was a complete state of bliss. I wasn't hallucinating anymore. I was completely back down to earth. I just had this sense of peace and love and bliss coursing through my body. And at that moment, I knew something had changed in my body and in my life. And I knew God had answered my prayer. And I spent the next few hours just reveling in my completeness and my wholeness, and knowing that I'm going to be okay, that God's got me, and it's over now. And I knew it in my bones. I knew it in my deepest core. It was over. And I just kept having wave after wave of bliss. And I would think to myself, there's no way I could feel any better than I feel right now. And another wave of bliss would come through and I'd feel even better. And then it would happen again and again. And this went on for a couple hours. And eventually I went to bed. And I got up the next morning. And I felt different. My head felt so clear. My body felt light, not heavy and sick. And I knew I could eat normal food, and I wanted to eat normal food, and I started eating normal food. And I wasn't having problems. And this continued, and I noticed I just continued to feel better. And the biggest thing that struck me on that first morning was my twitch. I was like, it's basically gone. I mean, it was every few minutes I would notice a little, very subtle twitch somewhere. But prior to that, it had been boom, 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 continuous, non-stop, strong. And now it was barely there. The time in between them had grown substantially, and it was very subtle. I also noticed my lymph nodes that had been huge this entire time that I had Lyme disease. They were swollen in my groin area. I noticed they were smaller, substantially. And every day they got smaller, and every day the twitches got further and further apart. And I kept eating, and I felt better and better. My brain was coming back to me. And at this point, I am on no antibiotics. I hadn't been. I gave them up a month before this happened. I tested myself after all those antibiotics, and apparently I still had Lyme disease. I was still positive, at least for antibodies, whatever that means. And so, but all my symptoms were there. I was not treating it with anything else. At this point, I had given up on that, and I was looking to this as being my solution. And then this occurred to me, and this happened to me, and I was having this experience. And so there's not any confounding factors, really. It was just the mushrooms alone. And God. And as time went on, I felt better and better, and more normal, and my life was given back to me. And I'm here now, years later, and I have no symptoms of Lyme. And that twitch, it never fully went away. Every once in a while, I notice it here and there, but it's nothing like before. And I can honestly say, I'm completely back to normal. Besides that twitch that comes every so often, I feel completely normal. In fact, I don't just feel normal, I feel healthier than I've ever felt in my life. I feel more robust than I've ever felt in my life. I have nothing holding back my quality of life. And it all came down to that night and that moment and that prayer. And it all came together. And it was truly a miracle. It was truly a miracle. And I think about it every day of my life. How lucky I am to have had that happen. And I thank God with every ounce of my being for giving me my life back. And I prayed while I was sick, and I told God, if I get over this, I want to do your work. And in that, I want to be a beacon for other people who are suffering from Lyme disease. And if I ever get back from this, I want to be there for those people. And sure enough, I got better. And life happens. And you just move on. And I forgot about the disease and all that I went through, even though I was grateful and I remembered it all the time. And it came up in my mind all the time. I moved on with my life, and normal things started taking hold. The same struggles and things as before, like before I had Lyme disease, and things got busy, and I forgot to uphold my end of the bargain. And that always weighed on me. And so I'm putting out this video now to try to make that right. I've had heartbreak recently in my life, and it's been painful. And it's reminded me of what's important and who I am and what God put me here to do, and my vow that I made to God and to you all in the Lyme community who are still suffering with this terrible disease. And I want to let you know that there is hope. And it is a journey, and it is not going to be easy. It's one of the hardest diseases you could possibly have. But when there's nothing else, there's God. Always. And miracles can happen. They do happen all the time. And it saved my life. And my blood work even shows it. I had getting blood work done regularly through this whole time. And inflammation markers were through the roof, my hormones were screwed up, my blood sugar was messed up. And I'd get it done every couple months, and it was the same every time. And I had one scheduled after this had occurred to me, after a couple weeks after this experience, when I felt my whole body coming back online, and I felt my whole life force being rejuvenated and healed. And I was like, yeah, let's go get this blood work done. I know I'm better, but let's go see it. This will be a fun experiment. And I got it done, and sure enough, for the first time, everything came back normal. And it was just cool to see that. But I want to let you know, I'm here for you. And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'll leave my number in the description of this video. And you can give me a call anytime if you want to hear more about my story and more about what I went through. And I want to let you know there's hope. There is absolutely hope. And if you believe, and if you can let go, God can help you. And He can help bring you there. And He can help make you better too. God bless you. And I want to end in a prayer. Dear God, thank you for everything that you have given us. The good times and the bad times, the ups and the downs. The downs specifically, because they bring us closer to you. And they give us an opportunity to connect with you and to be vulnerable in a state that is so much more receptive to your word and your guidance. Please bless all those who are suffering with Lyme disease. May those people find this video, and may this video give those people hope. Continue to guide me in my journey and guide them in their journey. And to anyone who's sick, to anybody who's suffering out in the world, may you be with them and bless them and help their pain. God, help my heart now. My heart that is broken. Take the burden away from me so that I be made whole again. And ultimately, more than anything, may your will be done. thank you. Amen. God bless. Thanks for watching.